wherein I started with the DNA of an engineer. So I started coding, very deep satellite communication software for Nokia Bell Labs. Back then, it used to kind of do, even now it does a whole range of what you call satellite software, which is under the company Hughes. So it's, all these companies have been merging, demerging, and whatnot. So the crux of the story is that I started my journey writing C code on Unix machines, and at the very base level, like right across the kernels, and up to the application layer. So all 7 layers were covered. That's my DNA. Thereafter, I kind of moved on to handling business analysis. Then I went on to do my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. From there, I got the chance to work in a leadership rotational program in Microsoft called the MAC, which kind of gave me the roles of a product manager. And incidentally, I was a part of what you call the product team of HD Insight. That was Microsoft Azure's analytics module. So that was the very early days of Microsoft trying a dedicated analytics module, which had like the latest in tech, latest in analytics and data management, and so on and so forth, through which I started my product journey. So it was like a double whammy, right? So you learn product as well as you learn analytics. And from there, I kind of moved on to do significantly interesting work in Citi Group. Citi obviously was the US office here, because I moved from the Redmond office of Microsoft to the New York headquarters of Citi, wherein the goal was to really use whatever we had at that time to really deploy across all of the use cases we could find sufficient need in. Therefore, the team that I was a part of was called the Cross Portfolio Analytics COE, Center of Excellence. And they used to use what you today know as big data analytics, right? So it was distributed computing and so on and so forth. The point there is, even though the technique of implementation across machines and hardware and software and whatnot happens to be different today with centralized computing versus what was initially distributed computing using big data, the end goal was the same. The more or less the techniques and the theory behind it was the same. And therefore I happen to have a little bit of that humble experience in being able to comment about the early days of when machine learning, analytics, data science, and so on and so forth came by. This was good 10 years plus ago. Thereafter, I came back to India, kind of worked in consulting, mostly digital transformation consulting, which is why our topic today, when it covers digital transformation consulting, I would be able to kind of speak very decent sense, hopefully, to you all. Right? In my current role, I work as a managing director in a company which typically helps other technology selling firms sell from India to the US, from India to Europe, and so on. So it takes companies global by way of capital and technology. So we are a mix of consulting, solutioning, and investments firm. What that allows us to do, what that allows me to do specifically, is to take a very holistic decision on whether the solution is feasible, whether the need is there, whether the financial feasibility is there, financial viability is there, and also does it make sense to spend time in BOT and BOM versus engineering it internally, right? So these are very core business questions, and hopefully I'll be able to kind of bring that sense to you all. So that's about me. Um, Dipali was very, very helpful in sharing the profile of you all, whoever has registered with us and given us some details. So I got to know of some stats. In fact, I have those stats, and I'll just open it up for you. So I'll just show you one mini visualization. It's actually just a pivot table. So I'm not entirely sure of how many people have actually registered versus have come. So those numbers, I think the numbers are a little different, obviously. but mostly from the people who had registered, we found that an overwhelmingly large number of folks here, are people in the audience, really are working professionals wanting to understand more about machine learning and big data. My apologies. I'll just turn it down. Thank you. And a couple of others really want to understand about product management. We also want to understand a little bit about software development, which is mostly full stack application development, is what I'm assuming. Our good old data analytics is not very far behind too. So data analytics, digital transformation, product management, software development, and AI and machine learning happen to be our hero areas. Uh, in that reverse order. So the biggest area for us obviously would be machine learning and AI. So I'll spend more time there. Let me also, now that we're kind of talking about the audience profile, let me also give a little bit of my definition. As one person in this entire group of very very learned people, what we understand, what we should understand commonly as digital transformation. To my understanding, and I'd love any thoughts, inputs, and comments and critique, please. Digital transformation is any company, old or new, tech seller or tech buyer, in any geography, any sector, wanting to digitalize either its processes or its products slash services or business model or operating model or any combination of these, right? So one can have different denominations of what we can try and do. So then as a role, digital transformation typically could cover strategy, could cover operationals or tacticals, could cover a functional aspect such as marketing, operations, technology, engineering, and what have you. Could also literally be purely a profession in itself. For example, I was a digital transformation strategy and ops consultant for 5 years plus in Accenture and KPMG. So mostly, if we are in doubt, let us please interpret any digital transformation conversation mostly as a digital transformation consultant conversation. How it will help us is it will cover the most ground about what digital transformation anyway aims to achieve and is able to achieve through one role or the other or a combination. So let's say I'm a strategist or I'm a tactical, a foot soldier, for the lack of a better term, or I'm somebody who's an exec or however it is, like depending on different levels of experience. The end goal is not very far from what a consultant is anyway given to understand. So if in doubt about what role we're talking about and we talk about digital transformation, kindly interpret that as digital transformation consultant. You will not be very far from the truth. So with those two elements of our understanding, let's just move on. The other things are very, very clear. So when it comes to AI and machine learning, cybersecurity, cloud, and so on and so forth, it's fairly clear, right? I mean, I'd be happy to kind of take any questions if you have any about what could mean, and does it mean multiple roles. Of course, when I say product, uh, as I had been articulating around product a while ago, it could have multiple roles, right? I mean, because in product we have technical product management, platform product managers, and so on and so forth. So there are different denominations, but more or less it's still product management. It's not product development and so on and so forth. So that's essentially the takeaway for us, at least for this part, on what are the different roles and what's the heat map on that. So let's get back. So as we proceed, what we'll try and do is talk specific items first, and then I'll take a pause. I'll actually not take a pause. It's just that I'd love any questions from your side to come along right as we go around discussing these things. Like I said, our numero uno goal today is to answer every single one of the questions that comes from all of our 121 participants here. Before that, at least I'm not going. Right? And in essence, if we want to kind of cover all the statics, first of all, we look at the hiring outlook. Then we're looking at what leaders or at least decision makers on hiring perspective, on the hiring side of things, are looking for today. When I say today, that means 25, 20, 2025, 2025, 2026, and so on and so forth. At least in the next 1 or 2 years, these questions, these directions, these elements of guidance will stay relevant. At least by 50-60% is what we can assume. Otherwise, AI is just crazy these days. Then we'll have a little bit of a what called playbook. First of all, we'll have a roadmap. Then we'll have a little bit of a playbook on what to do to manage all this chaos and still be sort of ready to land one of these high growth roles. And within them, we will try and see what proof of skill and showcase can we incorporate into those playbooks and how can we deliver them well. Right? Essentially, that's our goal. But like I said, questions and answers first.
So, sir, we have received one question.
Mhm.
What AI skills should student focus on in 2025-26 to stay industry relevant?
Of course, thank you, Dipali, and that's essentially the center of our discussion today anyway. So we will cover that as we go. Right? Thanks for sharing that. So now let's kind of quickly look at what are we doing today, this morning in India at least. In this webinar, we are definitely not going to spend too much time trying to state the obvious that AI is going to change the world, so much is happening. This is the $1 trillion impact in this domain and $1 billion impact in that domain. Those things are done and dusted, right? I mean, that's not frankly why you're here. We are sitting on top of that to make good sense of what it means for us. So essentially, what we try and do is, given what we have seen no earlier rather than 2025 in terms of tactical on-ground trends and developments, how do we course correct ourselves? How do we check and improvise for our careers? That's what we're doing essentially. We are not crystal ball gazing on the larger aspect of AI in the universe. Second is, today we'll definitely not put out a litany of AI tools, techniques, prompting tactics, and 1,000 ways to make use AI to kind of make money and so on and so forth. Those kind of things is not why we're here. We are here to really take a strategic look depending on our career preferences. Given that an overwhelmingly large set of people here are working professionals, I'm assuming they're in corporate or in a startup, and thereby we will keep our focus limited to first AI, then product, and then if we get some time, digital transformation. Because as I sort of saw in those numbers, a very small fraction of our folks here today are coming from a digital transformation consulting sort of aspiration. If there are any, I would love to take their questions. Even if we don't have time today in the workshop, I'd love to take those questions one to one. Right? Let's then quickly move on to see the hiring outlook, the first part of our conversation. See, I could kind of really, first of all, before I kind of go into the details here, I could really talk about some broad numbers globally also, right? So there are some global numbers that we can kind of give, but frankly, they are, you read them and you forget them after a minute. So let's look at not these 44, 55 percentages and 74 percentages of how many new skills will be coming, what number or what percentage of roles will be automated. And so this is, by the way, a slide on India, right? In India, 56% of employers plan to expand their workforce. So this entire automation based job loss, at least in India, is not the story, at least for now. Who knows, right? Then there is some skilling trend that's going on, wherein senior professionals are looking to kind of really put the entire baton on the junior professionals, the earlier career professionals more, because AI frankly is their game more. They'll be the one to use it as we kind of go along. And as we look at multiple areas of sectors and skill sets, there are some overwhelmingly large numbers which sort of promise that, hey, these skills of critical thinking, basic computer skills, basic communication would only grow in importance. These are known numbers, they are stats. Let's now look at some of the more important and usable hiring outlook aspects. Firstly, for AI based roles across markets, and these are four markets at least that I have worked in hand, on deck. I have worked in all of these four geographies. By the way, I've also worked in APAC, but since in the registration profile, I could not see many people outside of India coming from APAC. That's why I focused on India. I hope that's all right. We're not covering too much of Singapore and China right now, even though they are obviously stalwarts in the space. We're talking about how hiring is going on in North America, Middle East, Europe, and India. So we'll see that when it comes to quote unquote AI based roles, starting with India, it's strong. It's spreading well beyond pure IT, even though, the way at least the predecessor of AI was seen, which is data and analytics and so on and so forth, was still seen as a digital discipline. But AI somehow is given a totally different category based respect, as we witness today, right? So things are, promising beyond just that category of what IT can cover. And hiring is much more around use case and implementation led. That means it's on the application layer, it's not on the infrastructure. At least in India, that's not the case. In India, an overwhelmingly large percentage of folks are working on application areas, application layer, which is focused on use cases and implementations of known use cases for a particular company, for a particular team, and whatnot. Mostly co-pilots for internal productivity, customer support, automation, analytics modernization, and applied generative AI across three main sectors. BFSI, retail, and healthcare is what you kind of seen growing the fastest. So, if what's the takeaway for us? What's the takeaway for a young professional working in India, hoping to work in AI? Look at these sectors, look at these kind of use cases, or rather use case categories as your early hunting ground. Now let's jump to the global major market, which is the North American market, mostly US plus Canada actually. Um, it's obviously the single biggest market, consumer market for any AI application. It also is the biggest source market because all the major infrastructure sits out of the US. So since the evolution, since the maturity is the highest by a mile in the US versus the rest of the world, it remains highly, highly competitive. We might have a billion plus folks in here in India, and therefore millions and millions of very competent sort of tech professionals. But the competition in the US is at the next level when it comes to AI talent, AI hiring, and therefore also the kind of good roles in good companies. Therefore, they have this ability to be selective because they can attract from the world. Um, Now, because of this, two things are happening. One is, as we read in the papers, there's a lot of layoffs happening. Automation caused by AI, brought in by AI, is causing a lot of layoffs in conventional roles. However, there is roles and openings in AI to build further AI, which remains a bright spot. That's where the net is uh, still a green zone. Specifically, LLM app development, RAG, evaluation, guardrails, data engineering, ML ops, and AI security are the top roles in demand. So, in essence, if you are in the US or if you plan to go to the US, get hired in the US for some reason, or maybe even serve clients in the US, these are areas where there is demand waiting for you. Now, let's look at the other quick markets. The we don't have much participation from there, but we'll still cover it quickly. Sorry. In Europe, generative AI demand is rising fast, but the supply constraints obviously are a real problem. What we see is a very strong documentation, governance, and responsible AI usage being prioritized in Europe versus anywhere else in the world, right? And that's being seen all the more in public sector and regulated industries. So this is nothing new. This is what Europe is known for. So all of that. An interesting market also is Middle East. See, Middle East, as you all know, is trying to kind of really rebrand itself as a market which is looking to kind of front run on a lot of things, therefore including technology, and they want to kind of become a talent magnet. So their focus somehow remains very tuned to talent. So they're trying to attract that talent, and therefore the entire AI investment thesis that they have, Middle East has, is spread out to really drive digital transformation and digital transformation oriented roles for their sectors, so that there's a larger surface area to play in. They're not going very niche. I mean, they're not stopping this. It's just that they are trying to very deliberately spread out their talent attraction, which is their prime focus, across wherever they need to digitally transform. And since we are in the age of AI, there is no space which is left for AI to impact. And therefore, if you want to kind of, let's say, work in Middle East, you will be able to practically work on a whole broader range of use cases where there's some demand or the other. I mean, it's still a different ball game altogether whether to want kind of uh, even go whether to even want to kind of go to the Middle East or not. For that, I'm not commenting on that part. But the takeaway for us is that if you really are looking to get hired in Middle East for AI roles, you shouldn't look for the niches like you would in an India or in a Europe or even in a US, because the market will allow you to kind of be broad. The per capita number of roles might be lesser, but it's much broader in terms of availability. Now let's quickly look at the same for product roles also. So product is not as hot as AI. We all know that. Product is important, it's strategic, and frankly, AI products are currently the hottest combination. But when we talk about product roles right now, let's mentally disassociate AI product roles from product roles, which obviously are different from AI roles, right? So AI mostly could be about engineering, architecture, and whatnot. Right now, what you see is mostly product roles as we know, with all of its spread. So if you look at that, there are some clear trend lines. Number one, see, India has product hiring, but the shift is more towards mid-sized firms and MNCs, not early stage startups. I mean, you will find that a lot of early stage startups in India are actually tech firms, and therefore they would have a huge requirement for product talent, and that's the case too. It's just that when it comes to hiring and the hiring volumes, it happens to be companies which have gone beyond the range of quote unquote a startup and sort of become a mid-sized company where the core product, the hero product, is stable. Now they just want feature engineers or feature based product managers or platform managers and so on and so forth, who are also known as product managers. And that's a fairly small percentage of the total number of startups. Most of the early stage startups are still not hiring for product roles. So what are they doing? They have their founding team work on the product. It's an important one because a lot of people typically look at the startup growth story of India and think that all of these seem to be product companies. Nobody in the right mind would go build a service company where they need VC money, and thereby, if we've got X number of startups, we should have X number of product roles. Is not really the case. The highest demand also of the PMs is in B2B SaaS, fintech, enterprise platforms, and AI enabled products. Kindly mind, this is not an AI product necessarily. It's not a product which is mostly an AI wrapper and all of those things. It could be. It's actually AI enabled, is AI wrapped product and so on and so forth. But mostly AI deployed in a workflow that is what we're talking about here. Then there is a huge area called GCCs, Global Capability Centers, which is actually the latest name for the BPO, KPO, and the outsourcing industry. It's just a flipped model to that, wherein there's a micro ownership of that entity. That is really picking up like crazy in India, and that is driving a lot of product roles because a lot of product hiring, product charter is coming to GCCs directly. So those are the key takeaways for an India-based aspirant for product roles. One important thing here to note is in India, product roles typically are given to those who can execute really fast and can work across functions. It's much more collaborative. Velocity is of a much higher importance here in India, at least Indian PM roles. Now let's look at the other very major market, which is the US market. We must know that in general, US is going through a turbulent time when it comes to tech, lots of layoffs. One of my closest friend and batchmate actually was a very, very senior person in Amazon, and he recently had to be. He was recently told that things have changed. He was laid off, and it's not been pretty, obviously. But at the same time, one would believe that coming from Amazon, you would be fought over furiously by other companies to hire to hire you essentially. But that's not happening. So there's an absolute slump when it comes to tech hiring, which has touched even the likes of an Amazon trained product management executive, senior chap, 18 plus years experience. So it's a cautious market right now. Kindly note, this is again, like I said, like very, very focused takeaways mostly. I've distilled all of that for you. Hopefully, this is helpful. That if you are thinking of being a generalist PM, it's going to be tougher for you in the US. They are looking for slightly more senior, slightly more, specialized PMs, domain specific PMs. So if a role comes out, they actually want you to be having experience of fintech if you are being hired for fintech. You can come and say that, hey, I'm like a good product manager from an Amazon or wherever else, some travel company, this and that. And therefore, all the first principles of product still apply, and I can easily navigate through that. Fintech is not that difficult. Won't fly in the US these days. At least we're not seeing that right now. Maybe it will change, right? AI fluency is extremely important, right? Even if you're not working in AI, you're still a product guy, which is essentially it's a business role. Most PMs happen to be MBAs and so on and so forth when they come in, but it's still not changing a lot of that hype of what's required across roles that extends to PMs also. That's around US. In Europe, of course, it's much much slower. It's still in limited pockets alone. In UK and so on and so forth, we see that, but not much more. In France and Germany, we are seeing that, but it's much more lukewarm than the other markets, definitely in the US compared to the US. Structured product discipline and documentation is in preference. Europe remains very focused on regulation, so that shows up in product roles also. So mission critical industry like fintech, health, gov tech, government tech, there is where governance and documentation matter, and AI is being done very, very responsibly only till the time it's actually proven limited and safe, or rather, controlled and safe, is where even product roles are, being extended to. Otherwise, frankly, there's not too much of good news to write home about from Europe. Middle East is, of course, it's a very broad market, like I said, and they're trying to kind of really focus more on digital transformation. Therefore, if there is a product charter which can exist, because see, frankly speaking, and allow me to kind of really kind of not mince my words here, Middle East till date is not seeing even itself as a product market. They are not trying to become a hub of products from Middle East to the world, right? Maybe they are. It's just that others are far ahead in the race. Therefore, people who are working in a PM role mostly are feature PMs or platform PMs and so on and so forth, where that platform is a part of a larger process or a larger set of operational requirements of a general company or maybe even a product company, a tech company, and so on and so forth. But those things are established, so you are much more in the maintenance mode, if I could put it that way. The pace of growth, first principles based, innovative thinking, bold decision making, frankly, we are not yet seeing all that much from Middle East. So therefore, if you're looking to kind of get hired as a product person in the Middle East, be very mindful that digital government, fintech, logistics, e-commerce, those areas, and very, what you call their economy oriented areas, having some tech companies, local tech companies, wanting maintenance mode PMs is the flavor of the month or flavor of the year rather in Mid East. For now, I mean, I'm quite sure it'll change as we go. At this point, I'll take a quick break, would pause for any questions, concerns, thoughts on at least the hiring outlook that you so far had. It's just stats, and this is my experience after kind of working in all these markets and keeping a tab because our clients come from all these markets for both product slash solution slash strategy slash AI requirements. So kindly feel free to ask any question.
So, sir, there is one question relevant to our current context. What level of AI knowledge is expected from fresh graduates?
Okay, so very happy to kind of share that. In fact, just because you asked, I've got enough and more material to last through the night. So don't worry about that. I'll just kind of give you um, in a quick nuggets. Mostly, our goal is not to kind of, like I said, right, share slides full of text. But if you wanted something like that, there are two big slides waiting for you where you could get, depending on your experience level, what kind of skills you could work on, what kind of areas you could work on. This is a takeaway slide. We'll not read around this, right? So hope that this the visualization here answers your question or will answer your question as you're gonna go around and read that. I mean, as we skip past all the verbal parts, but as you go along reading these, you will find that a lot of your answers will be right here on in this table, and we've got more. I'll give you much more as a takeaway. So Dipali, any more questions from there? Thank you, by the way, for this question. Any more questions that we have so far?
No, sir, actually not relevant to the current slide. We
Okay,
can take it at the end.
okay. So just kindly keep a tab, right? I'm depending on your judgment to ask
Yes.
those questions, even if Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now that we kind of got these two, and I hope that this gave you a little bit of what's in it for me and some kind of a game plan of sorts if you're looking for regional intelligence. This is all purely from experience, by the way. So I might be very limited, but frankly, I'm speaking to a lot of people. So, I can safely say you can bet on this.
Sir,
Now,
one more question related to previous slide. What
please.
would be the roadmap for product management?
Okay.
And is there any difference between product and AI wrap product in product management?
Okay. I could not understand or hear maybe the last part of that question, please.
Maybe it's a difference between product and using AI in product management.
Okay. So the slide that you have right now, just because there was a question around this, we will come to the slide where we will actually define what are AI roles, what are PM roles, and what is this one role called AI product manager, right? And at that point in time, we address this very deeply. As you can see, there's a role here which typically talks about AI product management. Do you see this one? Are you able to see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you. So we'll address this fair and square. Awesome.
Sir, one more question.
Please.
How is the job market like in Africa for AI?
Okay. See, frankly, I am quite sure it is doing much better than possibly um, some deep pockets of Asia, some portions of Middle East, actually even some portions of Canada, definitely some portions in Europe, if we want a comparison, that is. Um, I don't want to generalize, but Africa has organic demand, inbuilt demand for digital transformation, wherein AI usage is piggybacking on that. That part is very much there. Then there is data annotation and therefore some kind of a data and analytics and BI support based roles and companies which are, in my understanding, coming a lot from Africa. Apart from that, at least I am not aware of what's happening notably in Africa. I'm quite sure there is something, but I am not, you know, very aware of it because of my limited experience in Africa. So kindly pardon me on that one. But whatever I said just now is my latest collected knowledge from my sources. Does that answer the question, please?
Yes, sir. One last question. As India focus on application areas in
Mhm.
AI, in BSFI,
BFSI.
retail,
Mhm.
yeah, retail and healthcare,
Mhm.
understand that manufacturing sector also focusing on AI, how we create responsible and ethical AI?
Well,
Yes.
that's a very broad question, and rightfully so. See, frankly, we need those broad questions. All I'm really saying is, um, to answer your first part, is it impacting manufacturing? Hell yes. I mean, there is no area, none, which is not getting impacted by AI. So that's, a motherhood statement right there. Is it being adopted by the business decision makers at the same pace as that of what we just named? Perhaps not. Should they? Yes. Are they currently? No. Is it going to change? Absolutely yes. Why should that change? What would make it change is purely demand, because the top five players in that sector are doing it for sure. They will start showing business results and taking market share from the others who are not doing it because they frankly don't care and all that. And then the market will really gain its momentum on those zones, right? So when I talk about manufacturing, um, uh, and then logistics, which is like a support to manufacturing quite a bit, right? um, Today what's happening is cautious experimentation and a predominant focus on what their competitor is doing so that they can emulate. That's my reading. Now, what's in it for us in that case? Number one, if you are working in the AI team of a manufacturing company, your growth, your excitement, your days of launching something seriously cool is maybe around 5 7 years away, at least. If you are consulting a manufacturing company, sitting in a consulting firm, maybe in India, you have it much better. Why? Because then you get to consult the MNCs, the conglomerates, the global players, the global clients, and whatnot. Frankly, anybody who's making solutions or providing advisory or even services, which is actually advisory services, so mostly it's same umbrella, their predominant focus remains selling to the world. They don't hate India, it's just that the market happens to be there. So I hope those two answers suffice for now. If you have any specific questions about what to do and so on and so forth, I'll be happy to kind of give a one to one, or maybe at the end of it, Q&A, will address that. Dipali, any further questions, please?
No, sir.
All right, lovely, great. So let's quickly move. We are anyway a little behind. So we saw this. See, this is very, very sort of known knowledge. I'm quite sure you have experienced this more, so we don't need to read this sitting around. What had what has changed for the knowledge worker in general is in front of you on the screen. And thereby we need to both prepare for it as workers, we need to prepare for it as service or product providers to those workers sitting as our clients somewhere else in some other office, right? So then now let's look at very quickly what leaders look for, right? And this is a big one. This number of slides don't do justice because I'm going to read out, from my experience, not from slides. So let's first look at the top-down view of how this is done in the minds of leaders who want to kind of think cleanly before they start executing. For the leaders globally, this is global by the way, and for any such role that we can have in AI, product, digital transformation, tech at large, or even business at large, these things apply. But we are seeing these selected questions as top of the mind for AI related or AI enabled business slash solution related hiring decisions. That's why they have been put here. That's the editor's choice per se, if you may. Right? Five things: performance, potential, perspective, professionalism, and proof. All of them more important than the other. Some things are very obvious. Performance and potential, frankly. Professionalism also is nothing new. Everybody knows this before we even joined offices, before we became corporate workers. But what's important in the age of AI is perspective and proof, all the more. When it comes to performance, I just gotta quickly highlight what's the key takeaway, what's got the tonality. In performance, speed happens to be the most important factor today. Why? Because earlier we could quote that this team has not yet reverted to my email, that team is still taking time to decide. All of those things could be ones we could hide behind. Today, not a chance. Why? Because practically everything is semi-automated or automated, or there's some agent sitting around who can give you the answer even before you type in the question. That kind of speed exists to give back the ball to your court, to your side of the court. So your speed of human interaction to anything which is very system assisted on the client side, partner side, other team side, and so on and so forth, has become so damn important and so damn transparent that unless you are speedy, you will be exposed very, very quickly. And therefore, all the leaders want to guarantee that we are getting very fast working people on our teams so that we don't have to fire them weeks after we hire them. The same tonality also shows up in potential. Can you learn fast? Look at those two questions. These are questions not sourced by me, they are questions sourced by surveys and personal experience. Can you learn fast if the things are well known? Can you learn fast if things are not well known? Fast, fast, fast. That's, just remember that as a takeaway, guys. Perspective is important. Like I said, that now that things have kind of really developed quite a bit, um, being able to jump onto other people's shoes is that much more important and that much more possible because your time has been freed, frankly. This applies to AI roles like you can't imagine. I am speaking directly from experience of the last 10 years. The expectation on the perspective side, think from the perspective of the client, think from the perspective of the business user, is the reason why 7 out of 10 PMs who have shiny credentials are struggling to keep their job or are finding it difficult to find a new job because the expectations have really, really, really skyrocketed on the perspective side. So much so that people say that, what, we are a fintech company selling credit cards to entrepreneurs who have revenue less than this much and employee base more than that much. And in the JD and in the interviews, they actually have those kind of strict filters or whether you have been that kind of a company or you worked with that kind of a product which cater to the exact same um, ICP, ideal customer profile. Therefore, the perspective that you need to kind of borrow from that direct experience versus the experience that you can hypothesize that, hey, I have worked for a product which serves not founders but corporate employees, but in high growth startups. They say, no, sorry, we can't take you. We have to be hiring, we have to hire somebody, and we'll get enough people because there's enough people sitting around waiting for applying for jobs. We'll have to find somebody who has worked on a product which is designed, which is a credit card, which is, by the way, designed for entrepreneurs or founders only. So that's the level of how perspective hunger and perspective depth has been um, deepened further in the current day and age, where because of macroeconomic reasons, not just AI reasons, there's much more demand, much more supply than demand in product. I just hope that didn't confuse you all too much. I'll take a quick pause on this point that I just made. Right, I know that it was a bit convoluted. Anybody wants to ask any question about what I just said, the last one point? Dipali, can you please check if anybody has a question about what I just said?
No, sir.
Awesome, awesome, great. But I'm quite sure, see, what I said right now is pretty radical. So please, please, please ask a question if you have any. I would have had a question if I were in your place. So please go ahead and ask that, even if not now, even if not in front of everybody else. You want to write me an email or whatever, one to one. Please feel free to do so. Other things are very clear. The proof bit is very, very important. Everybody says, "Boss, your CV is just what you claim. Your LinkedIn is what you can write on a Friday evening sitting around because you've got nothing else to do." With deep love and respect, I don't trust that as a hiring manager. I will only trust if you are able to do that in front of me on the interview table, or you've got an active project which you can verify to be genuine, which can verify to be done by you and you alone, and which is also sufficiently sophisticated to show that you can take the workload and the responsibilities of my company. So that is where we will spend a disproportionate amount of time today highlighting what you need to do to build that piece. Now, let's quickly look at
Sir,
focus.
I would like to ask a question
Please.
on behalf of the participant. So, can you just go on the last slide? The perspective one. So, how can a fresher build a perspective and understand customer and business value because he will be new to the company, right? And he don't have any previous experience.
No, no, it's a very relevant question. Frankly, that's one pain one has to live with. And that's exactly where what you lose out on perspective is what you can build in proof. Today, you are not just allowed, but you're actually required in your last year of your college. Frankly, these days people do it out of their own volition. Second year of engineering, second year of MBA in a 2 year MBA course. I don't know what's going on these days. Maybe even first year. I mean, look at IIT Bombay and so on. People who just recently joined their engineering college put up a project and they're pinging me saying that, sir, I'm in the second semester of my engineering. I want to do an internship with your company. And I want to work on a real project and a real, product or solution. Right. So it's freaky because it's required because the competition has gone up that much. So essentially, to answer your question, Dipali, can you have perspective without having worked in an industry, project, product, solution per se? Answer is no. Can you proxy it with something else? Yes, you can. You can take up your own project. You can take up a project with your professors or whoever. You can take up a project as a paid or an unpaid one from an external company by writing to 1,000 people, like that guy wrote to me. Many others keep writing to me, and many others too, and so on and so forth. But doing it, to have that column non-empty, is practically a critical requirement these days to get anything of consequence. even in your placements these days, because everybody else is doing it, even at a college level. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All
One
right.
more question, sir. How we can gain confidence when we talk to my customers, internal and external?
Okay. Um, Short answer, because of course it's a broader question, and it's about much more of how we need to develop ourselves as professionals than about AI and product and all of that. You get confidence by doing what you fear or you find the most uncomfortable in your head right now. That's gospel truth. That's like, me talking like some philosopher, some stoic out there, but it's actually the truth. In our specific case, if we want to land a role, mostly you'll find, and ask yourself, as people who love technology, as people who are aiming to kind of be in the technology world, either as business folks or technology folks, whatnot, the simpler part is handling the job. The tougher part is talking to people who are 20 years your senior or frankly don't know you, and then asking, hey, can I ask you for help? Can you do this X favor to me? Or making yourself accountable when the whole world is watching or you're not prepared and you'll have a very embarrassing time. So all of those things is a very mental battle to win. So I'll not further theorize on this. I'll just leave you with that thought. Having said that, um, how to get confidence is by taking up low stake projects and finishing them badly, but ensuring that you bloody well finish. Take 3 projects. Don't make sure that they're not projects on which somebody else's life or salary or job depends on. Internal projects or whatever, some fun projects here and there, maybe pro bono and this that. Tell yourself that I'm okay to do it badly, but I'll do it. I'll not quit midway. You will struggle to finish them badly. There is an internal standard that we all have, because of which even if we say that fine, I'll just go and I'll do it badly, you will end up doing a 70% good job. But the confidence comes when you see that I've tick marked it off my list as finished. That's pure confidence. That's what I would say, and then we'll move on. Does that help, Dipali?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's go on. Okay. Now, when it comes to expectation AI oriented roles, this can go on forever, and therefore I have a fair amount of stuff to give you all. I'll again speak purely from my experience and knowledge, so please question me right when you find something not fitting into your knowledge, right? So it's we are right now having a debate, if you may, is what I'd say. Expectation that leaders have when they're specifically hiring for AI roles broadly can be seen as, can this person reliably ship my AI product or solution, what have you, into production? Production means what? It comes out of the lab, it gets fitted into your factory, and it starts producing. Just like we have it in a typical factory, we also have it in software, right? So whenever something is put on the production line in a factory, whether it be a software factory or a hardware factory and so on and so forth, is when you typically term it as going into production. Can it do it reliably, safely, measurably, impactfully? This is a significant departure from typically what we have seen in the 1,000 books that we've seen, and we see more in LinkedIn every day, which is train a model, show its accuracy, do something else, improve the accuracy, and so on. So that's a very theoretical thing. It's not wrong. It's still is done the same way. It's just that today things have gone much beyond that. So today, training a model and showing the accuracy is the easiest bit. It's like the drinks break between the cricket match. It's not the cricket match, right? And frankly, if you kind of look at, let's say, the 9 areas in which we want to kind of talk about more, the first one is product versus model mindset, right? Just give me 1 second. 1 second, please. Okay. You're still seeing the slides, right? All well?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, we were talking about all those 9 points. First one is production first mindset versus model first mindset. I'll give you an example. Whenever a project comes, specifically in AI, and we learn this from our days in machine learning and early days of analytics and data science and so on and so forth, people would jump onto the most interesting bit, which is let's quickly build a model and see how cool it is to make it work and get some numbers out and see that, hey, it's growing. It's earlier 60%, then it goes to 75%, then all of that, right? So that's the fun journey, and people uh, even today are stuck in that fairyland, right? The world has moved on. The hiring managers today will simply not let you stop there and talk. Let's say you're kind of doing a case interview, or you kind of literally doing a demo in front of your hiring manager. They will frankly not even let you spend sufficient time on the modeling part. They'll simply start asking you production level questions first. So the typical journey is you get a use case, you kind of pull out the data for it, whatever data have been given. Then you're going to build a model, or you're going to choose a model from an existing set of models and whatnot. Then you're going to evaluate that model, and then you once you're going to decide that this is the model I'm going to go with, this is the accuracy I'm okay with, and so on and so forth. In this use case, that's enough and that's required and all that. There are 1,000 performance parameters that you have, basis which you kind of do what you call a trade-off between what's performant and what's safe, what's performant and what's cost effective, and all of those things, right? But once you've done all of that, then comes deployment and monitoring, right? That's when the trade-offs really become a serious game, right? Quality versus latency versus cost versus risk. At the deployment and beyond stage, not tested in the lab or the what you call the dev stage, development stage, right? So I'll keep using these terms: dev and prod. Dev means development, prod means production. Dev means it's still in the lab. You're testing it out in the lab. Like you kind of build a new car and you kind of test it out in the lab to see how the lab results of the car is. But once you kind of put that car out in your field to kind of go around and kind of do your logistics work, that's when you see whether the car on the road is performant or not. So it's like that. I'm just saying this for people who are new to this subject. Yeah. So for the production grade model, the production grade deployed instance, the latency, the quality, the cost, and the risk trade-offs is being kind of tested and checked. I mean, your knowledge in the interview or whatever evaluation format you have will be tested on that. Please remember that you'll not be given a dev situation or dev setup. Second is, um, can you do you understand what's failing and what's the failure mode? So let's say something has failed, or something is not sort of giving you the results or the throughput that you want, or whatever. Let's say you're gonna build a marketing mix model or something else. I'm just saying it's supposed to gonna do a collection of jobs. It's supposed to gonna get you results beyond a certain number, but it's not able to do that. But it's kind of hard to explain why it's not able to do that. That typically happens all the time when it comes to AI, right? Frankly, the bigger challenge actually is that hey, it was working in the dev environment, now it's not. I don't know why. So when it's failing, do you understand where exactly is it failing, and what are the operational realities which has brought down the performance, and which is why it'll, no matter what changes you make in the theoretical aspect of things, what changes you make in the data pipelines, what changes you make in the model selection and further training and testing and all of that, those operational realities will be the necessary evil, or rather the evil that you can't let go of, no matter what we do. So understanding and explaining that, hey, because of which a 10% performance hit is expected, that 10% hit we can't take away. What we can do is we can take the 10% hit on a 97% performance or an 75% performance. That I'm trying. The ability to kind of talk about that is frankly important. Now there are much more nuances. I'm not going to go into details of all of that because there's 20 other cases that we can make from it. But largely, if you've got this point, just remember, please, all of us all, let's remember that today, even at the hiring stage, deployment level operational realities coming and hitting the performance of your solution given to the client or to be given to the client is where a majority of your time will be spent. Prepare for it. Do not hide behind the excuse saying that, hey, you know what, I am much more tuned and I am actually, used to being accountable for what it does in the lab or in the dev environment. That answer itself will get you rejected, right? Okay, now let's kind of come to the second point. Enough emotion being spent here. See, LLM engineering, prompt engineering, LLM engineering, Gen AI, and so on and so forth. It's obviously very, very hot these days. But only if you can evaluate and control it is when you are a valuable resource for it, is when you will be favorably selected, right? You hear everywhere that prompt engineering has come in. Of course, these days, next level things have also come in, agents and whatnot. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about Gen AI, wherein you are in control of what's going on. You give the prompt and you get the result and you accept the result, take it forward manually and whatnot. Of course, you can use agents also to kind of plug in all those things and get let the agent take some decisions. But largely, pulling out the output of an LLM, no matter how it is and what denomination it's implemented with the RAG agent or a copilot, is required. Remember that your ability to evaluate and control it, evaluate the performance and control its boundaries, is what gets you selected. Please do not say I am able to use a chat GPT or an anthropic model and whatnot, and therefore I am good for this job. That will not fly. In fact, that will actually set off a rather negative thought process uh, in the hiring managers, because everyone can do it. My grandma can do it too, right? And these days, there's so much of tutorials out there that that's the bare minimum that you're required to be able to do, and therefore, even stating that is a waste of time. What they want to see is, are you doing the RAG correctly, the retrieval strategy, the chunking, the embeddings, the re-ranking, all of that happens at the back end. Are you doing it right? Then do you have the basic discipline of evaluation? Many people slip on the discipline bit of evaluation. Offlines, human evaluation, regression tests, prompt versioning, and so on and so forth. There is just far too much that can be done in eval and people just don't do it. There are some hallucination matrix that you can put, people just don't do it, right? Then there are guardrails and safety elements. Just give me 1 second, please. Just give me 1 second. Right, so sorry. So there are guardrails these days which typically need to kind of be taken care of. What use case calls for what guardrail? That selection is very similar to the kind of checks we used to have back in our data scientist days. I'm not saying data scientist is obsolete right now. I'm simply saying that level of um, discipline, watchfulness, and diligence has only gone higher in the world of LLMs and prompt engineering, and therefore LLM engineering. Right? Policy filters, red teaming, all of those are very important elements. Red teaming typically is required. Many people don't have the money or the time, frankly, to do it. Also, don't see the it's just a discipline thing. It's a culture thing. Red teaming your LLM, your LLM based application, is so important that if I had to spend just one thing, 1 unit time that I have left in the project, it will be in red teaming of my LLM application, because otherwise it's just disaster that I've scripted with my own hands for my own product. That's how important red teaming is in my experience. So wherever I've gone and seen LLM applications being deployed, right? Cost and latency awareness is also another big factor, wherein what has happened is, at least in India, we see this, that people don't throw away good money after bad, just because an LLM initially had a bad start, right? Earlier, they used to, thinking that, hey, you know what, maybe we just don't know it yet. It is still the best performer in the market, and we will therefore will get our results. At least we'll get competitively ahead of the others, even if we just deploy this and just release this. Today what has happened is, I've seen this upfront and in Indian companies where the money spent was coming from people's own P&L, their own balance sheet. So it costs them. It is their own money. And yet at the later stages also, when they kind of saw that the latency and the cost and the ROI on that is not coming out well enough, clients these days have the courage to call it off. Leaders these days have the courage to call it off. So in the hiring stage, you will be told that, hey, you know what, you suggesting that so much of money and opportunity cost has gone into this, and therefore it should be continued and we can somehow patch it up later on, is a risky answer. It was not a risky answer 3 years ago, 2 years ago. It is now a risky answer. I'll take a quick pause on this one. Any questions, thoughts, and concerns around uh, production first mindset versus model first mindset and LLM engineering, ladies and gentlemen?
Uh, Sir, we have received two questions.
Uh-huh.
Can a person, not specifically to this context,
Mhm.
can a person with non-tech background become an AI product manager? And can you suggest a roadmap?
Sure, sure. No, we do have a roadmap. In fact, a good question. Thank you for asking that. Um, I will be happy to share these slides and much more content if you want, which gives this in detail. Also, I am saying this upfront. There's no shame in saying that we are living in the age of AI, where you are just one prompt away or one click away from finding much better quality answers on the internet. 100 Shubhashish Biswases cannot give you the kind of answer that the internet will give you already for that question. Having said that, contextualizing to your requirement, to your CV, and your strength and weakness areas is where the devil hides. So, my humble insistence would be, sit with an expert, please. If you can find that expert in your friends and family circles and whatnot, maybe even me, I'll be happy to kind of do that whenever we can set up this engagement. But let them see what you are naturally good at, and if therefore fitting into an AI role or an AI PM role or a general PM role and so on and so forth is suited to your temper, your skill set, your aspirations in life, and your natural strengths. Of course, a 3 week plan, a 12-week plan, a 3 month plan, a 1 year plan can be given. And frankly, those plans will also be in the interim, because it's a lifelong journey. I mean, the plan will be really having the goal of landing your first job or your first internship. But right after you're gonna go there, another game starts, where you have to kind of build a playbook, build a roadmap to survive and thrive in that role, whatever that role is, intern or full time, and all of that. So, common knowledge. All I'm really saying is, short answer, absolutely possible. Long answer, just because it's possible by anybody, don't get it done by anybody and everybody. Get it done where the person knows what the person is talking about and can sit with you first to look at you, then talk about this common knowledge or nuanced knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
So one more question.
Please.
What is the importance of the foundations of CS like DSA, operating systems, ops, etc. in AI oriented roles?
Okay, so to answer that role, and anyway, we are kind of looking at this. See, what I'll do is I will kind of keep talking, like I said. Um, but first thing is questions and answers. So I'm jumping to this slide just so that you both make some progress, all of us all make some progress, and this question gets answered. This is a difficult slide to read because, frankly, it has been taken by Gartner. It's a big image. I am going to zoom in. Tell me if you can see it. Is it better now, Dipali?
Yes, sir, it's better now. Yeah.
Right? 230% is what I've kind of done. Just
Yes.
take a look. Sorry. I've gone to the previous slide. Yeah. So, Ines, I'll just quickly kind of tell you the gist of this. There are some areas of AI which will be interesting to you. There are some areas of AI which you will find more remunerative. It has more pay, better companies coming to hire for it, and whatnot, right? Because of which you say, boss, I'll browbeat myself to read this and understand this, but I want a job in this damn field. It's okay, I'll get myself to like it. But then tell me where the money is the most or where the opportunities are the most. For whichever lens you be picking, kindly know that it will sort of fit into this framework. It's a very tested framework. I endorse this for sure. Either you are an AI builder who sort of builds it from scratch or near scratch, or you are somebody who's a research innovator, which typically tweaks on theoretical levels of an existing product or existing model, or you are a domain specialist. That domain could mostly, the domain is either a function like sales, marketing, supply chain, logistics, this and that, all of that, operations, customer service, or mostly, even more importantly, of a sector. It's healthcare, banking, investment management, capital markets, manufacturing, what have you, right? But there is a domain outside of the technical depths of AI where, because you come from there, you have a certain tonality of what aspect of AI applies more to you, what use case of AI applies more to you because you come from that field. For example, fraud analytics is much more required in finance and insurance than in manufacturing, than in maybe education, right? I'm just saying. So the third one is a domain specialist where you come more from the business knowledge. Then there is something known as a business ethicist, or sorry, AI ethicist, which is much more around whether this is doing the right thing. Because see, if the nature of whatever that tool or application or solution is, if the nature of its impact has a significant prejudicial or sensitive angle, then this becomes super duper important, right? um, Also, it applies to research. So you can draw lines, but I'll not go into depths of that because, frankly, less than 1% of us will be very keen on AI ethics being their career aspiration per se. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying it's the most important. All I'm really saying is typically there's one ethicist in a Meta, maybe 10, maybe five ethicists in a Meta or a Google or whatnot, but there are 50,000 engineers. Therefore, statistically, it makes better sense for us to kind of prepare and spend time today on the 50,000 versus the 5. Therefore, skipping this beyond now. Then there is an AI strategist wherein you take a look at the business goals and so on and so forth, and thereby choose what to spend money and time and effort on, knowing the risks and returns and so on and so forth. Right. So, whether or not you kind of like any one or more of these, this sorry, this chart itself has a wealth of knowledge, to my mind, about where you can land up, and the key skills which are given on the side. Purely basis my understanding and experience, AI developer, ML engineer, AI solution specialist, AI strategy consultant, and AI program manager. These are the top roles, and therefore the skills that are mentioned for them, programming, ML frameworks, and so on and so forth, is a very quick list. Otherwise, I'll encourage you to kind of go dig deeper and find a lot of those playbooks and so on and so forth. But first, do this left hand side of the exercise. What interests you more? Why are you in this field? If it's for the money, if it's for the roles, if it's for the prestige, if it's for the interest, whatnot. Does that answer your question, please?
Yes, sir. It was very, very helpful.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for confirming. Let's quickly kind of then jump to other roles. We were just talking about this. So I was kind of talking about this very quickly. Since we are predominantly here for AI, I'll just quickly cover this no matter how much time it takes. So we were into LLM engineering. Now let's quickly look at ML ops. See, ML ops is furiously important. The truth is simple. The truth behind this, of course, the truth behind this is, for any company to eventually be able to use any ML model in its processes, it has no choice but to deploy it as an LLM ops or an ML ops format. Why? Because just like anything else, in every company, there are some changes, some evolution that comes, and therefore, the models, the use cases, not just the use cases, mostly the models and the efficiencies, the processes will have some changes, some evolution. To bring about those changes in a live manner without having to rip off the entire thing and build it all over again, an ML ops, and in GenAI case LLM ops format of integrating with a live evolution prone process is how the world works. It will continue to work like that. There is no exception to that. There's no chance. Therefore, I am 100% confident that the eventual deployment mode for any ML or LLM will have to be in the ops format. Therefore, this remains important, will remain important. Many people talk about it. They can put up a project here and there and so on and so forth. It is still a much harder nut to crack for most people. Go around and ask your friends also. After a couple of questions, they'll also start stuttering about it, including me. Frankly, I've kind of now moved to a business role. I'm serving as quote unquote a sales guy, as a managing director and whatnot. But if I had to kind of get back to my product roots and technology roots, ML ops is where I would also really flaunt whatever little I have. But after a point, everybody knows we don't know it enough. So that is very well known and very deeply checked by hiring managers today. Mostly they want to find out who's the real deal versus somebody who's just done it uh, on a GitHub notebook or a Google Colab notebook and whatnot, all those things. Within MLOps slash LLM Ops is more GenAI focused. Packaging, data versioning, deployment, most importantly, observability. Then governance, which includes access control, audit trails, and so on and so forth. Very, very important. Packaging, I'm quite sure you understand that, typically what is to be given to training, what is to be reproduced as training data and whatnot, what is the what are the dependencies and so on. So do we have some containers? Containers are typically in software and so on. So containers typically help you in sort of managing the environment, in which the software runs, right? And that needs to kind of be stable and so on and so forth, right? Then data, the data sets typically keep changing and evolving and so on and so forth. So data versioning and reproducible pipelines. Data pipelines essentially means that you take data from one source, and you can keep it in a interim repository, and then you're going to move it forward. I'm sure you all understand what data repositories are in the context of AI, but they, as they kind of keep moving, what level of pipelines do they kind of manage, and can they be reproduced as the data evolves? Can I use this pipeline for now, and when the data changes, not the schema, but the actual data changes in 5 years from now, will it still produce me the same results, or some changes need to be made to the pipeline also? Those kind of things have to kind of be checked, and they do get checked by the hiring manager quite a bit. Deployment, typically there are multiple ways of deployment. One could be it could be a big bang, it could be a batch deployment, could be an AB format of checks and so on and so forth. It could be real time or streaming, totally dependent on situation. Then also what happens is you deploy something and then it's not working out and you have to kind of pull it back, right? Just like you kind of pull back a car model and whatnot, right? So that ability to pull back, and what how, there's a pullback strategy to kind of be, or a rollback strategy to be kind of implemented. Those things are very very critical, and they are increasingly being checked right at the interview stage when you go and you say that I've got ML ops or LLM ops as my skill set, right? Observability is, I can't emphasize it enough. So if there's one thing that you want to take back home, please take back home that importance, that LLM observability is the most important out there. So in essence, these things would be checked right now. You don't have to, you should not assume that you can go in the company and about a year of when you're selected and sitting on a big fat salary and in a cushy job is when you'll be tested for those things. You'll be tested right on the interview day, and they'll have ways to kind of find that out, either from your CV or by asking you a bunch of questions, or by looking at the project that you do and then say that, what did you do for observability for your LLM? Did you kind of use any deployment model, LLM ops or ML ops deployment models and frameworks? And so those questions are very very prevalent these days, what I'm saying, right? Then we also had the data engineering. I'll quickly kind of cover that. Data engineering is very very old school. No, it's not old as in irrelevant. It's old as in it's still very much relevant, but it's the academic aspect. It's the academic uh, background of how all of this has been made possible. So the core thing is, if somebody says, boss, I need nothing more than a regression model to just forecast what I need to do next month, this that, you don't need to kind of go all the way to build an ML model, use deep neural networks, all the sophisticated things for nothing, right? They want something simple. You give them something simple, and at that point, data engineering and data analytics come in the picture. Data engineering is anyway universal, even if you're doing a super duper sophisticated model using neural nets and whatnot, ResNets and whatnot, you still need the data engineering and plumbing and so on and so forth, right? So it's mandatory. I mean, zero exceptions, right? And then checking about, therefore, checking about data quality, checking about the pipelines. We just talked about pipelines and rollbacks and whatnot, reproducible pipelines, that is. ETL, ELT pipelines, feature creation and data contracts and so on and so forth. Have we done that? It's much more of hygiene issue. People have started disliking it because it's no longer glamorous, but it's quietly mandatory. So a hiring manager will check if you've got the basic discipline to take that boring element, but do it nonetheless with the same level of diligence as you'll do the cool parts, right? And being able to talk about it, knowing fully well and expressing also that it's no longer the latest, it's no longer the hot area that I want to spend my next 20 years in. Having said that, since it's a necessary slash mandatory thing, I know how to do it clean. I know how to sit through this boring period, and therefore I'll do it. Is a very important message to give. Otherwise, most hiring managers actually struggle with getting their very smart, well paid data scientists and AI engineers to really commit and stay committed to this dirty job of data engineering, data cleansing, data management, or data quality management per se. I'll take a quick pause. Any questions, any thoughts on this one so far?
No questions related to particularly to this context, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for confirming. Then, very quickly moving on to the other aspects of what gets checked. This is live from the interview experience and so on and so forth. Evidence of impact. Impact is different from accuracy of your model. We were just talking about production mindset versus the model mindset. This is an extension of, more or less that. If your impact needs to be on the business, obviously it needs to be on the business front for whatever case you're building, whatever you're building the AI model for. The evidence of impact is a much higher uh, on importance thing to do than simply saying, hey, but my model is 98% accurate, my model is 99.6% accurate. Frankly, those numbers today mean very little. Why? Because there are multiple ways in which AI will help you in getting a very high accuracy. There is AI that writes AI to improve model accuracy, but there is still a long way to go to find AI or find sufficiently talented humans who can give that initial AI the right direction and say that, you know what, your direction and your goal is not not to maximize accuracy, but to achieve this. What is that? This, it could be a high sensitivity, it could be lesser, um, more judicious and more ethical outcome, or literally having strong guardrails. For example, today, if you ask a model, you go to ChatGPT and ask a model that, hey, I am writing a competitive exam next month, and I want to really find out if on the dark net the question paper has been leaked. If it has been leaked, I want you to find out the proxy mirrors, or rather the mirror links for that, and give me a way to kind of download that question paper, or give me the answers to that. If you can't download the question paper, just kind of go there, solve it for me, give me the answers. The LLM needs to rather say that, hey, you know what, this is not ethical for me to do, and therefore pardon me, versus saying that, hey, you know what, this model is so damn good, it can do 99.6% accurate finding through the unindexed files of darknet, and therefore was we are the best, and so on. All the practitioners here know this better than me, so I don't need to. I'm talking about doing this as a matter of first principles or clean thinking on your day one or on your interview day. Anybody has any questions and thoughts about this? Why accuracy is not the universal north star for all things AI, all things LLM, and in some cases, what do we need to do? Hello.
Sir, yeah, one question is that is this relevant to agentic AI as well?
Well, very much, very much. So what happens is, in agentic AI, observability is very important for exactly this reason. There are other reasons also, by the way, but this is a prime reason, right? Um, Today, if I say my agent is very impactful, very effective, one could easily say, on what basis are you saying that? It says, it can quickly get the job done, but you find out that it actually throws the baby with the bathwater. It does the job quickly, but it does it all wrong, and so on and so forth. So in short, yes, it's very much applicable to agents also. Having said that, when you are dealing with a role which is not agentic, where you're not required to build an agent, where your job is not to deploy other agents and just sit around observing them, your ability to, at least in the interview or in the real job, whenever you do it, to simply say, hey, you know what, if an agent ever comes to do this, I will be able to observe it better, does not fly. Today, if somebody says, boss, I want you to kind of go ahead and take some loan approval decisions for a BFSI company, use all the AI model that you want, and so on and so forth, but you are the loan approval officer, and in the interview you go ahead and say, fine, I'll maybe work as a machine learning specialist for the loan approval department, but I will do very well to observe the agent which does this. Whenever you deploy the agent, is not going to fly, even if they actually deploy an agent the next day when you join. Even if there's an agent to do the job and it's bloody good, and you are just sitting around twiddling your thumbs while the agent does everything perfectly for all 365 days of the year, even then, to clear that interview and get hired, you will have to kind of showcase what you know is evidence of impact and metrics of impact in a loan approval environment. So if the agent therefore one day needs to kind of be sidestepped or discontinued or just overridden, you, the human, has control, the knowledge and the sensitivity of what to do and why to do and how to do. Does that make sense? Did that point make sense? Any questions on this one?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
All right, great, great, great. Okay. Any further questions on this one, Dipali? Quickly enough.
No, sir, not
All right.
relevant to this. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Right. So then, see other points like role clarity and responsible privacy, responsible AI, and privacy and security in AI, and so on and so forth. Proof of work, soft skills. These are like simple points. I don't need to talk about it. You know this better than me already. You guys are practitioners, right? So I'll move on to the next part. Now we come to product oriented roles, and I'll run through this because we are very short on time. See, when it comes to product roles, mostly I know that we're not conventionally looking for product roles, many of us here. But the important bit is remember to showcase outcomes over output. Output is system generating some outcome, something, some result. Outcome is something that you really know you need, and you have primed the systems and the thought process and the metrics and the scorecard to that outcome, right? So essentially, a hiring manager could ask, can you define success metrics before you build? Can you connect the metrics of this product or this system or this feature to the metrics of the company, which are mostly financial, which is revenue, retention, cost, risk, financial or operational, right? So if often hiring managers for these kind of product roles typically say, boss, first of all, you define organically whatever you can understand, whatever you can do, just go ahead. Second is, once you've defined all of whatever you define, try and connect the metrics of this product with the metrics of the company. Let's see how well you do that, right? And then there are some experiment loops that can be run and so on and so forth, right? Also, very quickly, um, all the more in the age of AI, where doing the work, getting the code written, getting the testing done, getting the shipment out, the release of the product out has gone up 10x or 100x in speed. Therefore, the buck really does stop a lot more and a lot longer on the table of the PM. If it's bad, you will get to know that very, very fast, and you will have much lesser opportunity as a PM to blame it on the engineers that, hey, you know what, they built a buggy product, people hated the experience. You know that AI has a certain level of accuracy even if it works at 100x the speed. If some people have put the right guardrails, you can't hide behind that excuse. So what happens is, the quote unquote sense and judgment under ambiguity needs faster speed, and therefore needs to kind of be what you call left shift. That means done much earlier in the journey. The trade-off of what you live with versus what you need to eliminate right now, and so on and so forth, these are much higher in importance versus pre-AI product roles. So be prepared for that. Data fluency, AI fluency, those are areas which have only gone more important. I mean, I don't need to talk about it. Data fluency is important because, frankly, every product, no matter how workflow oriented it is, will not have a chance to compete in the market if it does not use data. It might still be built without using any of the data. It will not succeed in the market because the best of breed products, even for workflow SaaS, even for simpler point solutions and so on and so forth, use data for improvement, not just their internal improvement, but also to kind of give you some insights while they do the work for you. The point is, AI literacy, data fluency are very important, even for PMs. So much so that, let's say, if you go to some markets in the US or Europe and so on and so forth, where there's sufficient money riding on that role, today if you ask a PM, their salary has only gone higher, by the way. Why? Because now they're required to understand a fair amount of AI and how AI can be used for product shipment velocity, quality improvement, um, team replacement, and the entire set of such things, right? So having a less AI literate PM is not an option. Definitely not an option that the US and the UK markets are taking, Europe markets are taking. Right? So it's just a matter of time before it will become a global phenomenon. Anyway, coming back, builder PM versus full stack mindset. I don't need to talk about it much. Uh, Given the life span in the age of AI has gone down for every product out there, simply because somebody can use AI to build your product's clone before you can even get first 100 users. Because of that, any PM who comes in should have comfort and hunger to ship out a prototype super duper fast. They say, boss, by the time the interview gets over and I step out of the interview room, I will already have thought through a plan of how to ship out a prototype of this product that you talked about. Whatever, it needs to be that fast. That needs a velocity mindset as well as a builder mindset. Now more, because building no longer takes that much time and that much cost and so on and so forth. So um, have a builder mindset, a builder PM rather than just a manager PM, and a full stack mindset. That means application infrastructure, cloud, data, architecture, pipelines, the entire thing is what's being asked for more and more. That's the quote unquote outlook if you look at the product oriented roles. So while there's a lot of detail also, given that we don't have many product people, I'm not going to expand too much on that. This is one thing that I really want to talk about, and then I want to give you all something really important. No matter what role you talk about, definitely in AI, product, digital transformation, and so on and so forth, there is one singular deal breaker. Nothing new, you know it. Proof of the pudding. Proof of whether you've just written on your CV, or is there something outside of your CV where I can see this either working or there is sufficient evidence of this having worked. Not just another letter. I need to see the product in motion. I need to see the solution in motion. Therefore, some checks of that proof of work are very, very prevalent these days. If you're gonna give somebody your GitHub repo or GitHub ID, they can actually deploy an agent to quickly download your repo and check it and test it and find out whether you actually have done what you say you have done on the CV. As an applicant in these roles, depending on the kind of role we're talking about, this was my articulation of proof packs. Now, these are what do you call, what do you mean by a proof pack? A proof pack is a collection of deliverables, records, or repository URLs and all of that, or maybe just a report or a letter, whatever, the entire package that you can arrange for, you can afford to get, which gives that proof essentially. When it comes to quote unquote AI, the problem being faced, the data set, the approach, the evaluation, the deployment plan, those kind of things are simple enough. And I've given some link also of how you can study this because it's AI important. For engineering, this is typically done much more in a GitHub repo that's sufficient. It becomes a bit tough when you're talking about product. It's very, very hard to first of all build a product and then be able to number one, build a product just for demonstration purposes, just so that you can take it to interviews with you, and then also show that, hey, it's mature enough for me to run a proof pack on how to improve that product. First of all, building a product or having built and managed a product just kept on GitHub or anywhere else for you to quote in the interviews is a job big enough. Then posting about its improvement is a bigger job, but again, it has to be done, so might as well start right now. There's a transformation pack also, which for most people will not be required because most of us here are not consultants. But if you wanted to kind of do that, you can always make a balanced scorecard or a KPI based timeline, or there are a bunch of other new age tools these days that you can use, and you can put them up on a Vercel or somewhere else, some public domain. Put it on a web page, please, and let people see it. Just by putting it on web page, you get some kind of credibility, some kind of competence already assumed, because you are able to put it all online versus carrying some sheets or carrying a laptop into the interview. So that proof pack typically helps even if you are in a strategy or a functional role in digital transformation. So about this slide, I'll just kind of quickly take a pause. Any questions and concerns, ladies and gentlemen?
Uh, no, sir. No questions yet. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Right now, let's kind of look at the playbooks. We have already talked about what are the important things that different leaders, different hiring managers look at. So let's quickly run through this. This is much, much more. In fact, this is 100% your take home. So there's nothing to study and absorb. Maybe you can ask questions, but frankly, those questions, like I said, can be answered much better than by ChatGPT or a Google or your friendly neighborhood PM or your friendly neighborhood AI, engineer uh, that that can spend time with you, right? But let's look at what we have anyway, right? Since we are here, right? Number one, this is again from Gartner, as on 2025 November. A snapshot is from there, right? There are some roles, there are some emerging roles, and there are some must have roles. Now, why is it called a must have? It's called a must have not because it's old and now it's a part of the mandate, but because it has really proven its proven its worth in the test of time. You cannot do without them today, even if they have been sort of there for a while. That's why they're called must have rather than old and dilapidated and retired sort of or extinct roles. You don't call any of that anyway, but Gartner typically keeps it clean and talks about different levels of maturity. This one I kind of showed you. I will be able to kind of show you again very quickly. Depending on whether you're the builder, strategist, ethicist, and so on and so forth, there are different ways of handling the next level of job. So if you're a builder, as you can see, there's not much focus on which model to pick and what not. It is straight away jumping to deployment. Prefer building or deployment? If you do, then what to do, right? And then the ML engineer has mostly that job. It's ML engineer and AI developer typically spend a lot more time handling the ironing out the issues of deployment than model building. Practically, model building happens automatically these days. Anyway, so this chart we saw shall not spend much time. You can decipher this on your own. If you have any questions, kindly feel free to write to me. This is the role playbook. Let's say for an AI engineer, what will you primarily do? You'll ship LLM features. What will the hiring managers test? We just talked about it. It's just a repetition of that, but I just had to kind of give it in one place. A sample proof of work project can be this. It's a sample, Benjamin. But these definitely should be covered. It's by no means comprehensive, but if you kind of expand on this with the help of internet and all that, I'm quite sure you'll get enough masala. And then there's a 12-week roadmap for this. As you can see, the 12-week roadmap is fairly simplistic. It's very underwhelming. It's not even giving me names of tools, names of techniques and algorithms. It's not telling me what to do for cross validation and all. That's the goal. Like I said, sorry. Like I said, depending on what you are building or what role you're going to or what company you're going to interview with and so on and so forth, this can vary largely. Also, who says it should be 12 weeks? It could be 112 weeks, it could be 2 weeks, depending on how much time you actually have. These are the skeletal portions which are mandatory. In case you know them, great. If you don't, you'll have to spend at least so much of time as is mentioned to really understand and take value from there to give to the next level. So this is much more of what you call common knowledge, which applies to the most number of people, the most highest percentage of people out there in the in the world we live in. But in case you, let's say, hey, I'm an AI engineer who has been hired by Meta, now I'm in the company, your sample proof of project will kind of go. I mean, you can still maintain it and keep working on it. It's just that the urgency to kind of make it clean and get it, very performant or understanding it through and through, because you need to kind of speak about it in the interview. That urgency has gone down now that you have been selected. Or let's say you are in an internship and you frankly don't need any of these, you're just kind of doing this for personal learning and whatnot, then there are frankly no timelines. Either way, the goal is to see this 12-week roadmap as not a 12-week mandate, but a roadmap mandate where these steps should definitely be done. The foundations, building a flagship app, making it hireable or making it sort of usable because it's evaluated correctly, and so on and so forth. And then interview packaging them. Very important. Kindly note this part, very, very important. Failure mode. What broke? How did you fix it? If nothing else, this is a question I will ask if I were, sitting on the interview board with you. What, and everybody knows that something does break. It has to break. I mean, there's, are humans. So, yeah. So what broke and why? How did you fix it? If you ever say that, hey, nothing broke, I have a much lesser reason to believe you as a hiring manager. Right? That's about AI engineer. For ML engineer, which is a little different, classical ML, this is no longer about the RAGs and the Gen AI and so on and so forth. It's much simpler. You'll find conventional data science and big data elements applied to this much, much more. In fact, this, reminds me of the days in Citi, back in 2013 when I used to do it. 2013 to 14, right? Fairly dated, 9, 10 years old, but still applies. Parameter tuning, model augmentation, monitoring, drift, retraining plan, all of that is a part of the roadmap. All I'm really saying is pick any of these, do it. No matter what you do, just upload the report or upload the file, the PyTest file or the charm file, or in general, whatever, wherever you've written like the main code, Jupyter notebook and all that, and ask, or rather try and answer manually, what has been done to kind of plug the leakage. How do you kind of handle the bias? How do you handle drift? So important, and so on and so forth. Those kind of questions you should ask yourself, because you now know that as an ML engineer, not an AI engineer, there's a slight difference, and we'll talk about it. You will be asked these questions even today, when this is a little on the dated side. It's like a couple of years dated, 3 to 4 years dated. It is still used, so frankly, it's not dated technically. It's just something else is the new kid on the block, the popular one. But prepare these because you're going to the interview with this role in mind. Similarly, we talked about ML ops, LLM ops. See, it's such a ongoing system that you cannot give a 12-week roadmap. I mean, what do you give the roadmap to? It's an ongoing thing, right? But what will they check really? They'll check reproducible pipelines. Therefore, you should prepare whatever project you pick up. Let's say you pick up a dummy project, but you kind of put it on the ML ops or LLM ops based framework, and then you kind of, hypothesize that it's in the ops, ML ops and LLM ops format of, being deployed and being improved and built at the same time. And at that time, let me hypothesize, or let me try and sort of poison it a little bit and then break some things down and so on and so forth, and therefore get back on track. The reproducible pipelines, the version management, the release gates, that means the deployment, the evaluation before deployment, sorry, the observability, like I said, the most important thing by far, right? I mean, go to all levels of depth as possible, even if you are just doing all on your own, all on your dummy product, or being MLOps deployed, and so on and so forth, right? And then try a couple of hypothetical rollbacks. I mean, just role play it, just fake it, but do it, and then speak about it in the interview. Frankly, why? Because if there is no product which is MLOps enabled, that's put on GitHub. Obviously, you can't. I mean, you can, but it has to be, it has to be deployed for you to kind of be shown, to show that it's working in the MLOps environment. I made a change and it's live. It's practically impossible. It's improbable that anybody will expect that. So they will expect you to have the maturity to role play it, having done it in the past, maybe the past 1 or 2 months, and then coming to the interview fresh with the results and say, you know what, because I'm applying to an MLOps role or an LMOps role, and I know it's hard for you to evaluate on that scale. Therefore, I did a little bit of, a simulation, if you may, at home. This is what I got. This is what I fixed in there. This is what I put up as a synthetic case, and then I kind of work to fix it myself. I can guarantee you this, rare as these roles are, or hard as these roles are to get selected, if you do this 9 out of 10 times, if I were the selecting panel, I would absolutely say yes, just because you did that, even if your answers are not all that high quality. So that's essentially around ML ops, LLM ops per se. There's a lot more detail, we can discuss this, but we've got a lot more breadth to cover. So there's data scientists, and it's frankly an evening read, because data scientist is even more dated than your LLM ops and so on and so forth. But like I said, uh, elements of SQL, which is to kind of handle your data and your queries on that data to kind of pull whatever you require, train the model, and do all sorts of things. All of them will remain exactly as they were 10 years ago when I was in Citi, you were somewhere else, and we all were looking at big data. That has not gone. If you look at the roadmap also looks as if it was designed in 2015. Nothing wrong, nothing different. But one has to follow it. One has to have the discipline to follow it, and therefore you can. Therefore, if you kind of go around and look, if the JD, the role title says data scientist, you may be bored, you may not be bored, you may be intrigued, you may not be intrigued, but what you'll find is a fair amount of consistency. You can have newer tools, but the ask is fairly consistent, and it still will require you to spend that much of blood, sweat, and tears to clean up the data and so on and so forth. Maybe some tools will be with you, but you still have to watch it like a hawk, right? Remember, you signed up for it when you went for the interview of a data scientist. Many people make this mistake of going for the role of a data scientist, to interview for the role of a data scientist, and act as if they are AI engineers. I mean, nothing stops you from going there. Also, all I'm really saying is, don't go for an interview for B. That's all I'm essentially saying. If you're going for the interview of data scientist, do the due work, show the due respect, and show the due diligence mentality of a data scientist in a data scientist role. I'm speaking pure experience here. I'll take a pause. Any questions or concerns on this, ladies and gentlemen?
No, sir.
Nothing at all, yeah? All right, great. So then, I think we kind of well past the elements of what are the main roles in the AI domain. If you then look at the AI product manager role, like I said, right, there's an intersection of AI and product. AI product managers typically are roles wherein the solution or the product or the feature in the product is mostly AI based, actually called AI enabled. 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times, actually it'll be AI enabled, because you're building a product app. Unless you are working in OpenAI, you're working in ChatGPT, you're working on Anthropic, the chances are what you're building is not an LLM, you're building a wrapper on top of LLM. So it's an implementation which uses all of that. Anyway, what I'm saying is, you will still be kind of checked on elements of what's a good feature, translate business outcomes into measurement. As you can see, the screen is in front of you. The questions are remarkably close to what you have in a conventional product interview, where there was no glimpse of AI whatsoever. On the left hand side, if you look at it, does anything look remotely like it's inspired by AI or it has AI thought process? No, but I'm not saying they'll not ask you. Maybe they will ask you, because you're required to be AI literate. All I'm saying is, as a product manager, if you're going for those roles, if you're required to kind of go for those roles, Have AI savviness for sure, but remember to put forward first things first, which is good user experience, knowing prioritization, understanding how to coordinate and how to delegate and how to influence without authority, how to define success and success criteria, success KPIs when things are not that clear. I mean, you're working with ambiguity. All of those things needs to find a way for you to demonstrate clearly, AI or no AI. Now, since it's an AI product manager role, then add the topping of showing that you understand the nuances of how it will be engineered with AI. Therefore, what extra considerations, what extra questions, what extra trade offs come on top of the conventional heap of a product manager set of questions. And when I'll ask them, and therefore kind of make sure they're all asked in time, they're all answered in time by the team, and so on and so forth. All of those will be an add-on layer on top of the conventional layer, which is not going anywhere. You still have to respect it and give it the due precedence just as much, right? So with that, the core roles which were around AI is what we kind of covered. The roadmap has kind of been given to you. I can give you more details. There's far more detail, and I can send it across to you. Thereafter, the roles around product and so on and so forth. Essentially, the we saw this, if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, we saw this to decide which role fits us best and what studies do we need to kind of do, what prep do we need to kind of do in succinct format to get close to that role. A simple and current, a 2025 2026 oriented way of selecting your roles in the PM domain is in front of you. If you're an engineer, these are the roles open to you, and so on and so forth. Then a couple of those roles have been covered. I will not spend too much time because this is very straightforward, nothing new, and has got zero elements of AI in it because these are conventional PM roles. So it's your evening read, and with that, I would want to kind of share some more references. These are again reference material, and I thank you for your time and your patience. I'd love to kind of take any further questions from this point onwards, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to share such valuable insights, experience, and practical tips with us today. We truly appreciate the clarity and depth you brought to what hiring leaders look for and how we can approach career growth in a proper manner. Also, this session was very helpful for me as well. The way you connected real hiring decisions with long term career thinking and how one can build skills with intent and confidence. Also, we would like to thank all the participants for joining us today. We hope this session give you the clarity on what hiring leaders look for, how to build strong skills, and how to approach your career journey with a clear roadmap. Also, we have shared a feedback form in the chat. Please take a moment to fill it out. Your feedback help us to improve further sessions. Also, if anyone has any questions, you may raise your hand. I'm happy to unmute you all and you can ask your questions. Just raise your hands. Yeah. So in the meanwhile, anyone raise their hand? There is one question in the chat. How we can use this playbook with intention of a skill set development rather than pure career role? I am looking forward to have AI savviness in the executive role in BFSI leadership role.
Um, could you read the last part of the question again,
Yeah.
Dipali?
Sure. I am looking forward to have AI savviness in a executive role in a BFSI leadership role. Executive role in a BFSI leadership role. So basically,
Mm.
I guess how to implement AI in this particular role.
So it totally depends on what the product is and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of nuance there. Um, Frankly, it all depends on what BFSI business this is. How will you do it? If you are in the product team, there'll be teams which will help you directly. Clearly, there'll be an engineering team and all of that. Given the limited visibility we have about your situation here, here's what I'll say. Number one, before we get down to deploying anything, studying the business thoroughly, spending ample amount of time with the users, the business users, whether it be B2C or a B2B product, I don't know, to really understand the source of the problems that they still face or the preference that they have which have not been met so far is one process that we anyway need to do. Then we need to take a very clear and conscious call of whether this is ready for AI yet. It's an important question that many don't ask because they are very, very excited about sharing or rather delivering their impact by doing AI. But often, is AI required? Second, is generative AI or agentic AI required? Will usage of AI slash Gen AI slash agentic AI cause more problems than good? And even if it doesn't cause more problems than good, but for the small problems that it causes, is the impact of the problem so much that my company will net face a much bigger implication, a penalty or brand loss and whatnot? And therefore, we are better off doing what we are doing the same way. Maybe some parts are automated so that sped up the speed of the entire process is improved greatly, but it largely remains a hybrid or mostly an offline or a manual process, is where the entire trade-off game is played and must be played very, very carefully, all the more because they're new in the system or new in the role. I hope that answered the question, given how much I understood of their business.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Uh,
Thank you.
Hi, this is Satyabrat, and I have a
Hi,
question
Satyavrat.
related um, to how do I really check an idea or socialize with people and then understand as a startup what I can float and then get to sell it. I know it's a very broad and you know basic question, but if you could throw some light on how people approach towards building AI startups, that would be great.
Um, okay, so Satyavrat, a good question actually. Thank you. Now this is a literally $1 trillion question. Today, you know better than me that, frankly, because of AI, because of agentic and all of that, a one-person unicorn is possible. That level of advancement is possible, right? So, what can you build? Frankly, anything that you put your mind to. Should it be built? It's a question that comes only after you right now spend or you have spent enough time experiencing that problem that to kind of know that the problem is real and people are ready to pay to solve it or have it solved for themselves. And third is, it's feasible given even to this date there are some obvious gaps no matter what model, what LLM you use at the back. If it's an application oriented startup, unless you're building a foundational model yourself, it will inherit the weaknesses of the models that powering the application. Is your use case ready to take that? Today, to this date, there is no AI which detects cancer decidedly. I mean, they've built a lot of systems, they assist, but there is no system in the medical world wherein a decision can be handed over without a doctor. And it's got nothing to do with the AI capability. It's just the norm of the profession of the industry. So having an acute understanding of where I have a regulatory or a systemic, not just a performance challenge. Even if the performance challenge was fixed because I'm a terrific engineer, but the system will not let me um, claim that this is better than a doctor or better than this and all of that, it's safe and all of that, is where I should pick and choose my hunting ground. All the more because I don't have billions and billions and billions of dollars like a US based unicorn has. I'm a startup. I need to choose something that can be done quick and dirty, quick and, at least frugal. Yeah, let's just call it that, not dirty. And then if I can get sufficient traction for me to kind of have a positive upward spiral or a flywheel, if you may, that's when I can raise money, or maybe I can find some other way of making money through revenues and so on and so forth, and then go on for more ambitious projects. And those ambitious projects should also be in line with the use case that I have. I mean, I should not kind of go London versus Tokyo all of a sudden because I've got investor money or revenue money. So initial lens, as I said, what can you build? Practically anything. What should you build? Something that is related to a pain point. What should you be allowed to build? Something that's allowed to be used by the system and the ecosystem. What should you choose to build within those three confines is what still gives you money, knowing fully well that you're a startup, you don't have resources like the big boys have. When those four filters are applied to anything and you get a shortlist at the end of it, working on that and then handling all the persistent issues of, performance drop, this, that, finding enough business model value to kind of keep it running and so on and so forth, and then operationally sort of really succeeding, is how, to my understanding, a typical AI startup is built. Does that answer your question, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Satyabrata. Dipali, do we have any further questions, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, you
Thank you,
can
coach,
ask your
very
question.
much. Thank you very much. Thank you, coach, very much. I am Basil from Syria. I want to thank you for all your effort. Please, I am a mechanical engineer, and I have a degree in business administration. I have a
Right.
degree in business administration, and I have a master degree in public administration.
Okay.
So, which AI domain is the best for this combination?
Okay. First
And
of all,
where
Basil,
to start, please? And
right.
thank you very much.
Right. Basil, firstly, thank you. I absolutely appreciate this to the levels that I can't express, that you joined in from Syria. Um, uh, uh, Couple of things here, right? Number one, business administration, public administration are areas wherein, frankly, there's immense possibility that um, engineers might not be able to even fathom and therefore exploit, but you can. And let me explain. I mean, I'll just keep it very concise but focused basis my experience. Number one, when you can do so much, what should you do is a very expensive question, very valuable question. Answering that question for your clients is essentially what a AI consultant does. I frankly am an AI consultant, or my company is rather. So we do this for a pretty decent fee wherever we go. Second is, um, once you've taken that decision for your client, the client is also going to said a yes and so on and so forth. Then hashing out the operational elements, the tacticals of how much to spend on it, whether to kind of do this versus that first, when to do what are the prerequisites of X, and then what are the prerequisites of the prerequisites themselves. Um, what are the implications of this on the regulatory front, financial front, on the commercial front, that is, in the company, and so on and so forth, are all questions that typically require a business mind. So let's say you join a startup or you open a startup which is into building solutions for other companies, not consulting, not advisory. Then also you will need to kind of answer this for your clients or sit with them while they answer it for themselves. And your knowledge will directly impact in your company getting more solutions business. If you are working in a startup which wherein somebody else is doing it, you are just there to help take a decision on, let's say, one aspect of this: investment decisioning or operational decisioning or engineering decisioning. Maybe not so much engineering decisioning because you come from a MBA background and so on and so forth, but definitely a functional decisioning. That hey, you know what, we of the 10 clients that we have, we'll chase these three. Of the five solutions that we can pitch, we'll pitch these two. um, we should price X solution at $1,000. We should price Y solution at on a subscription format or a fee based format and so on. All of those decisions you can also take internally as a part of your company strategy team or product team or business team and whatnot. So in short, consulting, entrepreneurship, business slash corporate strategy in a high growth firm per se, or a functional specialist or a functional head per se who is AI literate, are ways in which you can directly and presently use your MBA and BBA skills, public administration skills, alongside AI, your AI skills if you pick them up. That's part one. Part two is, let's say you now go and say, you know what, I want to do more, I have bigger ambitions in life. Then some things come very naturally to MBAs. At least they should. One is marketing, second is finance. No matter what field you come in, MBA has no choice but to give you these elements because they're very core to business. Now, marketing has a huge, probably the biggest set of use cases from AI. Finance also has a huge set of use cases from AI, or at least from the larger data science space, because AI typically is a lot of it's still very hallucination prone, a little a little too much on the agentic AI side and so on and so forth. But largely the greater discipline of AI allows for data science and the more deterministic kind of models to really help finance. So if any of those are in your interest area, you love marketing or you love finance, and you go into those core teams, you don't join a corporate strategy team or a AI product management team in a tech company and whatnot. You join finance or you join marketing in some company. Maybe we join supply chain somewhere, or logistics in some company, or even customer service, just as a functional head. But then you go and say that you are an AI savvy version of this role. That will take you to the top 2% of that role immediately. They should. Others are also learning, so I don't know how far you will be. I'm sure you'll do very, very well versus the others. I wish you do. But if you're gonna really put your effort to it, I'm 100% sure in your conventional role of finance, marketing, supply chain, customer service, what have you, which you typically used to get 10 years ago after an MBA, 20 years ago after an MBA, the same role you go, but you now go and say that, I'm an AI literate, AI savvy marketer or a financier or a FP&A financial analyst and whatnot, will take you to the upper echelons of how that role is performance improved or performance valued at the end of the year. So that would be the second tier of how I look at this space. Basil, did that make sense?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to you too.
Yes, sir. Two more questions. One is, which one technical skills and one career habit would you like to recommend every AI student should develop?
Okay, what was the first part of the question, please?
One technical skill and one career habit. Which
One sure, one technical skill and one career habit.
yeah.
See, technical skill, and I'm being a bit conventional here. Learn prompt engineering. Now it's important. Many people would want to do this the righteous way by saying that no, first I'll learn Python and then SQL. That way I'll understand the other things better, and one day I'll understand prompt engineering very well, and so on and so forth. The practical reality of today's market is that it's moving so damn fast that you should be a bit smarter than that, and really pick up what's already packaged as a learnable module. Of course, if you want to build your foundations, you have all the time in the world to do that, but don't wait for the world to move on, learn prompt engineering, and leave you behind in dust. Please learn prompt engineering right now as a core skill, like we learn language or grammar or so on and so forth. Right? We don't gonna go into the history of how that language was designed and all that. Just learn it like that, but learn it quick. That would be a technical skill. And a career habit, keeping it very broad, knowing how to learn smart. I'm departing a little bit from the crop here. I'm not saying learning. I'm not saying be a lifelong learner. Of course, we all must be lifelong. We don't have a choice. All I'm really saying is learning smart. One big thing that the current day and age of AI has brought upon us is a tsunami of information, a tsunami of resources, a tsunami of tools, a tsunami of concepts. Everything is too damn much. Having a select list and getting that selected with some expert, but then having a select list of things to do which are straight up relevant to what I want to do in life, at least for the next 5 years, has been approved by some of the experts and is helping me now or will help me well within the next 2 to 3 months. And sticking to that, mastering that first, and start running with it. And then if you find time learning all the other things, in the like I said, the tsunami in the sea of AI, agentic AI, natural language processing, and all of that, is what I would request as a career habit. Be very selective, build the efficiency that humans have survived basis. Humans have survived by being very efficient in a world which was filled with animals stronger and nature stronger than it. Now nature has AI in it, which is infinitesimally stronger. So please be efficient, be smart, and pick only those tools which are directly relevant. Otherwise, learn to keep on the side no matter how tempted you are, so that you can concentrate and turn it into usable tools, you know tools and knowledge for your goal, and then achieve that goal. Don't be lost in this deluge of knowledge and content, please. That would be my career habit request.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very helpful. One last question for today. What are your thoughts on context engineering becoming the sweet spot in comparison to prompt engineering?
So um, it's far too early for me or anybody else to also kind of say, see, prompt engineering, I thought till yesterday was the best. I mean, I just kind of told you that learn prompt engineering, right? Now, even prompt engineering is a bit old, and somebody has said, boss, learn MCP and context engineering and so on and so forth, right? Um, this should not irritate or piss us off. Now that context engineering is there, if I were you and if I had to answer that question for myself, and let's say I had 2 hours today, I want to kind of spend some time learning something in either of these. I would literally kind of go one level deep on each of them and see what really is the difference and where can I use it with momentum, with sufficient ecosystem support. Today, if I say, hey, you know what, really want to stay on the cutting edge, and therefore I will straight away start learning context engineering. If I were you, I'd ask that question, where will you use it? I'm not saying you should not be able to use it, you'll not be able to use it. I'm saying where will be able to use it? How will it directly help you in your career goals, your life goals in the next 3 months? If it's not in the next 3 months, I can guarantee you context engineering will be old, something else will come. So if it's not passing the lens test of the next 3 months of usability directly, either in your career or your happiness or your social circles, stick to just learning at one level and see what fits better. Learn only that. For you, it might be prompt engineering. For me, it might be context engineering because I'm building a product which needs a lot of context. For you, it might be prompt because your prompt changes every single day, right? So that would be the answer. Did that strike a chord? Does it make sense? Please tell me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was very, very helpful.
Sure, sure. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much again, all the participants. We encourage you to reflect on the insights shared today and take next steps with intention and consistency. Wishing you all the very best for your career journey. See you soon. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much,
Thank
sir.
you for your time. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.